Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj, and today we have Rikki Lee Travolta. Did I pronounce it right?
Atul, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm going to tell you, Atul
Yeah.
and your wonderful audience at Genius Talk. As I was sharing with you before the show, I had a radio program, and it was a little itty bitty program, and we made it a national hit by acknowledging reality. And the reality is, I screw up everyone's name. I
Okay.
screwed up Lita Ford's name, Queen of Metal. And so you just struggled a little bit with my name, Atul, and that's okay because reality is okay. It's Rikki Travolta, like John Travolta, except younger and prettier. That's a joke. He's the most wonderful actor ever and just a beautiful human being. I've actually never sat down with him, but I have the utmost respect. That's just the pronunciation of the name, Rikki Travolta.
Okay, Rikki Travolta, right? Or I screwed that up again.
You got it. That's okay. We're gonna make your
Okay, okay.
show just the biggest hit. It's gonna be Genius Talk and Funny Name.
Yeah. Yes, that's a very good title. So you are a celebrity publicist and a leading image branding expert, and you're also a super genius, like who it geniuses for breakfast, and that's why Steve Jobs called you marketing genius, right?
Well, I would never use the word genius for myself, but a lot of people have. And so Steve Jobs was very complimentary. And the reason that he praised me in that regard was in the Apple world, there was this huge convention every year called MacWorld. And it's where Apple would introduce their latest and greatest. And they had a signature award, Best of Show. And so it's an Apple event. So it makes sense. Apple won every year except once, one time in history. And that was the introduction of the first OS X tablet, now referred to as the iPad before the iPad. At that point, it was called the Axiotron Mod Book. And I can't invent anything. I'm not a computer guy. I can barely work the stuff. But as Steve Jobs put it out, I'm a marketing genius. And so I orchestrated the one and only time a non-Apple product won Best of Show, the Axiotron Mod Book. At the first OS X tablet. It was the year Steve Jobs was talking about the iPhone, and I stole the thunder. Now, here's the sad part about it. Andres Haas created this incredible product, what the world was waiting for, an OS X tablet, basically an Apple tablet, not from Apple. And I orchestrated this huge revolutionary history-making marketing campaign. And then Other World Computing, Larry O'Connor, the third part of the puzzle, dropped the ball in the distribution. He didn't have a factory set up to manufacture it. He didn't even have the parts fabricated. He didn't even have the arrangements made. And so instead of introducing the product and taking care of record-breaking sales orders, he dropped the ball. And had he not done that, there wouldn't be an iPad. $19 billion worth of sales is now attributed to iPad, which wasn't released until 3 years later. We would have had cornered the market. There wouldn't have been a reason for an iPad. And that's where every member of the team matters. I couldn't do what I do without a team. I can't even really work a cell phone, right? But there's an important part to every member of the team. There's no such thing as a one-person billion-dollar brand. It's impossible because you can't be multiple people. You can't fill every job throughout the day. It's impossible. You can't do the deliveries and the web programming and the sales and fix the toilet and do the accounting. Even if you have all those skills, there's not enough of you in the day to run a billion-dollar brand. And so whether it's a small business or a billion-dollar brand, it requires teamwork. And, in that instance, where Steve Jobs called me the marketing genius and Andres Haas the inventor genius, that third member of the team didn't hit the genius level. We'll say really complimentary.
Yeah. So can you tell me a story about one of your most successful branding campaign?
I would love to. One of my favorites is resurrecting the career of Steven Adler. Now, Steven was the drummer. I love visuals. I produce television, I produce film. And groundbreaking advertising as well, how I make number one brands. Hollywood Celebrity Endorsement Partners is regarded as the number one company at making number one brands. And it's because of a team. And I'm the creative force. I see things differently. I'm high functioning autistic. So I created the fame of Empire Today. took it to national prominence in less than a year, what statistically would have taken anybody else 10 to 20 years. And that's why David Lenowitz, the billionaire venture capitalist, when he bought the brand and was failing at taking it national, that's why he and Steve Silvers brought me in. And Steve Silvers shook my hand and promised me part ownership of the company and everything. And unfortunately, Steve Silvers committed a lot of crimes and later was sued by Empire Today itself for $25 million in embezzlements. But that's how I do it. I think different. One of my favorite things is, okay, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, one of the top 5 selling albums of all time in the world. And the man who defined the sound of that album, and 90 to 97%, 90 to 95% of all Guns N' Roses hits is Steven Adler, the drummer, because he has a very unique style. And there's been other great drummers in Guns N' Roses. I love Guns N' Roses to this day, and Steven's not in them, not with the band. He's chosen to do a solo career. But he wasn't having the success that he really deserved because, well, Steven is one of the 100 greatest drummers of all time for Rolling Stone magazine. Steven is a great drummer. He doesn't do what I do, which is great publicity, great image and branding, great interviews. And so he was getting eaten up in the press for decades with press focusing on rumors from 40 years ago. And even if those rumors were true, they were still 40 years ago. And so what I did, why I'm credited with resurrecting his career, is I put the focus on the truth. And that's my key to any kind of marketing success, whether it's making $1 billion brand as a company or turning a celebrity into a celebrity brand. It all hinges on the truth. And so what we did is, first of all, I did a lot of talking because I like to talk. I have a twinkle in my eye. I used to be young and pretty and had long, beautiful blonde hair, which is why Empire Today brought me in. I'd just done a modeling shoot with Fabio, and I was one of the top 5 marketing people in the country because I'd introduced the first OS X tablet. So I was pretty on camera. Did every HGTV show, Montel Williams, Playboy Channel. And with Steven Adler doesn't really like to do interviews. He likes to drum and smile for the audience. And man, he's the best at that. And so I do a lot of talking, and I put the focus on the truth. And the truth with Steven Adler is he's a rock and roll Hall of Fame rock star. And he's a Grammy Hall of Fame rock star. And he's worked with the most famous musicians in the world outside of Guns N' Roses. Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers, Alex Grassi from Quiet Riot. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then if you expand that celebrity brand beyond just Steven Adler and focus on his solo band, which many people, really every fan I've ever talked to, has said that they prefer Steven's solo band to Guns N' Roses. And that's not a dig at Guns N' Roses. I love Axl Rose. I love Slash. I love Duff. I love Dizzy. Dizzy Reed on keyboards gets overlooked a lot. Everybody in that band is incredible. But if you ask fans, Steven Adler actually as the favorite of all past members. And if you ask fans, they prefer going to Steven Adler shows. And it's because not just Steven, it's a team, right? It's a team. So you have Michael Thomas on guitar. And he isn't just a name. He was the guitarist for Faster Pussycat, another legendary Sunset Strip band. He was the guitarist, or is the guitarist, in his other work with Brand New Machine. He's worked with Snoop Dogg. And then you have Ari Kamen, who is perhaps, one of the greatest vocalists on the scene today. Every member of the band, I can cite them one by one. AJ, Alistair James, not only a great rhythm guitarist, but one of the top engineers and producers in the world. He engineered Hollywood Vampires with Alice Cooper and Johnny Depp and Joe Perry from Aerosmith. And he produces for Quiet Riot. And you got Christian Sturba, who's just like the perfect bass guy because you can't have too many stars. You got Steve Sprite holding it all together. He's another member of the band, even though he's not on the stage. He's part of the team. He's the tour manager. And so that's one of my favorite projects because I took a guy who was incredible and he just didn't have the right focus on it. I didn't do anything but put the right focus on and tell the truth. And any company or any celebrity, the key is always the truth. Because with a business, You want to create customers for life. Okay. So don't screw them over for an easy dollar, because then you got that easy dollar and you lose out on a fortune of 40 decades, 40 decades of profits. Do the math. Just be honest. Just be truthful. Treat your clients with respect. Treat your customers with respect. And the same thing applies to making a celebrity brand. Instead of making customers for life, you're making fans for life. And Taylor Swift and Dolly Parton are the two greatest examples of that, because really nobody dislikes Taylor Swift or Dolly Parton, because they're just beautiful physically, but they're beautiful souls, and they appreciate their fans and they appreciate their support staff. If you look at Taylor Swift, she gave, I think, $100,000 to each one of her tour drivers after her most recent tour. Man, she could have pocketed that, had big parties or whatever, but she realized that it's the team that makes her successful. And so she extends that to the fans as well. She never disrespects the fans. She's always honest with them. Everybody's human. Everybody makes boo-boos, right? If she makes a boo-boo, she admits it. She jokes about it. She'll write a song about it. And so fans love her. And fans will buy every album, and then they'll buy every piece of merchandise, and they'll go to every tour. And if she wants to make a movie, they'll go to that movie. And I'm not saying that she's a bad actress. She's an incredible actress. But if she was to make the worst movie ever or the worst album ever, those fans for life, are going to buy it. Just like Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton has Dollywood. She has her own theme park. That's how beloved she is. And it's because she loves her fans as much as they love her. And that's how you build a number one brand. You don't abuse your customers. You make a mistake, you pay for it. You ship them not only a free product, you give them a credit. You take them out to dinner. You make them love you, and then they're never going to leave, because they're also going to be your best advertising source, because they're going to tell the story. They're going to tell the story of how great you treated them. And then in advertising, there's a lot more value to a consumer if the story comes from a trusted source. So, I mean, I get paid a lot of money to be that pretty face and endorse brands, and that's great. And I steer most of that to good causes, because that's who I am. But people, okay, I get that money, command that price tag, because I'm truthful and I'm honest, and people know that. But even as truthful and honest as I am, it's still an advertisement. It's still being paid for to be broadcast. And so there's an inherent from any viewer, no matter if it's me or Mr. Rogers or the Pope, no matter how trustworthy, it's still paid to be on television or on a program. So now if it's your friend who says, hey, I had this great customer experience, they're not paid to tell you that, are they? And that's what creating customers for life does, is they become your salespeople. They become your advertising.
So what do you think, how important is storytelling in building and sustaining a strong brand?
Okay, that is a great question. And I have a really unique background, because I learned my image and branding as an actor, and then applied it to business once I became a spokesperson, then marketing and advertising and marketing genius. And so with image and branding, okay, storytelling. I'm a best-selling author. My Fractured Life was my first novel. And Heath Ledger actually desperately wanted to star in the film adaptation for Port McGee Pictures. And that didn't happen, but we just got the film and TV rights back. And so some other young star will be in the film, and some other young star will be in the television series, because that's how you make a lot of profits, is create multi-revenue streams off of one product, maximizing return on a single product, a single effort. But in acting, okay, this is Variety. It's like the Bible of the entertainment industry. So way back when, I was doing, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Paul Newman he was my favorite actor other than John Travolta. And Paul Newman played the role of Brick in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, a Tennessee Williams classic. And he did that on film. And I was offered the role of Brick on stage at the Woodstock Opera House, which is where Paul Newman started his career. So my favorite actor, his role, his theater, I decided to do it. And I actually did it for free. It was just that I really wanted to do that part. And I met my beautiful, wonderful business partner, Deborah Swinford, during that show. But that's what I was known for, was stage work. I was approached to to replace Adam Pascal in Rent on Broadway. I appeared nationally in a show called Tony and Tina's Wedding. And yet, James Bond, right? Every time somebody leaves the role of James Bond, there's like a 2-year process of headlines in the news of who's going to replace him. And when Pierce Brosnan left the role, my name was in betting houses. Like gambling institutions were laying odds. It was even money that Rikki Lee Travolta, this stage actor from America, was going to be James Bond. Even money with Jude Law, Julian McMahon from Nip Tuck, Clive Owen, great Shakespearean actor from UK. And was I ever going to play James Bond? Not never. I knew it. Everybody knew it in terms of the industry. It was all image and branding. Because the only 2 actors who were really seriously in contention were Henry Cavill, who went on to play Superman and so many iconic roles, and Daniel Craig, who was the one who actually got the role for Casino Royale. But if Eon Productions and Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson had just said, okay, we're picking between these 2 actors, and then announced it, nobody would have really cared. But what they did, and they do this every time with the James Bond casting, is for about 2 years, they hint and they hint and they hint. And so they had these 2 actors who were the ones who were really in contention. Henry, who was very young at the time, and Daniel, who was just very accomplished. And either one would have been great because they're both incredible. But they had to create, like in wrestling, like in professional wrestling, they had to create intrigue and storyline, which is what you asked about, story building. And so they started throwing in names like Hugh Jackman, the Wolverine, and as I said, Jude Law, Heartthrob, Julian McMahon from Nip Tuck. He was the hottest TV actor. And then, just like wrestling, because we do projects with wrestlers in some of our film TV, you throw in that dark horse candidate. So I was American. I had the name Travolta. John Travolta was rumored to play a villain, but I had the name Travolta. We looked very similar. And I was the right age. I was a little older than Henry and a little younger than Daniel. I was never going to play James Bond. Burt Reynolds had wanted to play James Bond, and I think the studio really wanted him to play James Bond, and it was decided, and this was the height of Burt Reynolds' career, and it was decided that they just couldn't go with an American. So was a stage actor with very minor fame ever going to play James Bond? Not on your life, not then. It was all storyline, building so that people were playing the name game in the media. By the time Daniel Craig was announced as James Bond, it was already guaranteed to be a blockbuster. And the script hadn't been written, and the director, hadn't done the plot lines and things. It was already guaranteed to be a blockbuster because they had played this name game for a year, 2 years, building up the suspense. And that's in any kind of marketing, right? Whether it's a film and just the casting process, or what I did with Empire Today, making us the official flooring company, carpeting company of every brand, every notable brand, made us the official flooring company of TV shows like Montel Williams' show, made us the official flooring company of so many different name brands. Now, we didn't end up signing with the Chicago Bulls because there was a separation between myself and the company involving Steve Silvers. But we were about to sign with the Chicago Bulls to be the official flooring provider, not the playing floor, because that's a different kind of floor, a different kind of company, but the locker room floor. And so it's all name words, key words. And it was just being able to say, I'm Rikki Lee Travolta. I was introduced at Wrigley Field with Lou Piniella on August 8th, 2007, as your new Empire Man. And I am so thrilled to be here with my friends Stacey King and Jerry Reinsdorf to be the official flooring provider of the world champion Chicago Bulls. Well, that didn't happen. But Atul, you see how that is just huge sales just by name dropping a company and famous individuals. And that's how I did it. That's how I made us the #1 flooring provider in the nation in less than a year. Statistically impossible, except for the autistic guy. See, autism, you can either look at it as a disability that I can't really work a cell phone, have to have an assistant for that. Or you look at it as a super ability that makes billions of dollars for companies. Just focus on the truth.
Yeah. Perspective. Yeah. So it was really awesome talking with you. And thank you so much for joining us.
Man, I will tell you, Atul, I thank you so much. And
Yeah.
I thank your audience because Genius Talk, your viewers, they're people who are probably geniuses themselves. Everybody's the best
Yeah.
at something. And it's just figuring out what the focus is. And so I adore your audience. I've had just the best time with you. And thank you. It's been an absolute honor. I thank you. Rikki Lee Travolta, the Hollywood Celebrity Endorsement Partners team, thanks you. And anytime we can be of service, you reach out to us. Celebrity endorsements.
You heard the website. Reach out to Rikki whenever you want to talk with him or need any kind of help with marketing and branding.
And I'll say that again. It's celebrity endorsements.
Great. Okay, it was a awesome conversation, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.